Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome again to the House of Mann, the latest addition to the Houselights mansion that we are constructing here on the Nerd Party Network. I am pleased as punch to be here with you to get deep down and dirty and investigate and chase down every single nook and cranny and detail of the latest film we will be discussing this week from the Ove of Michael Mann, 1995's Heat. Heat. We are discussing Heat, which was instrumental in shaping Nolan's perception of The Dark Knight, of course. And with me to discuss this thing are my two compatriots in crime, my two most reliable compatriots in crime. Of course, my trusted shadow, the driver who makes sure we're never tailed, Darren Moser, and of course the heartthrob of the bunch with the gambling problem, Tristan Riddell. Gentlemen, welcome back to the heist of a podcast that we love to have.
I'm glad to be here. I don't think the driver does really well. Like, he dies pretty quick in this movie, but I'll take the compliment.
Well, you know,
that's all right.
But the thing is,
using a little girl as a human shield, so it's fine.
No. I was saying you were Chris.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The gambling problem is Val Kilmer. That's right.
Val Kilmer's the gambling problem.
You just have to give up the one thing you don't want to give up. So
listen. Tom Sizemore went on to do many strange and interesting things with his life well after Heat, but he at least has this to hang his hat on, which is a great thing. So, of course, we're discussing Heat, and I am excited. I'm legitimately excited to discuss this film because, being the old man, I saw it in the movie theater. I presume you guys did not. And I've seen, again, just like Last of the Mohicans, every edition of the film that's been released. And here we are with the director's definitive edition. And just to bring the audience back into it, Darren, this is your first time watching Heat?
First time
watching Heat. I can't wait to get to that, to find out what that first experience was like. And Tristan, of course, you have watched Heat before.
Dozens of times.
Okay. Just making sure we know
where it now, guys.
We're recreating the diner scene.
When we put this on the list, I was the one that got the audible gasp of like how can you call yourself a film student not seeing Heat?
Well, I have trouble remembering breakfast, so take that for what it is. I don't remember that part of the conversation, but it's the perfect setup, Darren. Okay, you're here. What did you know about this film going in? How much research had you done beforehand? You always seem to play it smart and go in relatively cold. Had you watched any trailers? Had you read anything about it?
No, I usually go in cold. Wikipedia helped with that because every time I tried to look it up, I got The Heat, which is not, I repeat, not this movie. But so the only thing I ended up recognizing is I must have seen the clip from the very beginning where the semi-truck hits the armored car. Like, probably one of those like top 10 action movie clips, that you see on YouTube. I recognized that when that was happening, but everything else was all brand new. I didn't know the plot, where it was going to go. When we hit the halfway point, I'm like, where? Like, we've had the shootout. Like, what is there left? Oh, there's like half the movie left. Okay, I thought that was going to be the climax. Like, I did know that. I did know that Heat has this amazing shootout, and it's one of the most realistic kinds of experiences, like they count the bullets right or something, and they're reloading at the right time.
Well, I'll go ahead and say, especially having seen it in the theater, one of the things they get most correct about the gunfight is how loud it is.
Right.
Like I don't know who has or who hasn't or whatever, but I've been to a gun range, and it's like it is ridiculously loud. It is sickeningly loud. And it's not at all like they portray in most action movies where there's this, cues, bang, bang, right? It's like your ears are ringing forever and a day afterward. And,
the entire city block knows that something is going on.
Right, exactly. And speaking of that, let's just go ahead. Everybody knows this shootout. Did it live up to the legend? Darren? I'm sure you've at least heard about the shootout over time. It's been referenced how many times, but did it live up to it? Were you in awe of what they pulled off and how they choreographed it? Or were you like, oh, that's pretty good?
So I will say I really enjoyed the shootout, but it wasn't my favorite part of the movie.
Fair.
And, it made me start thinking of some other kind of hostage kind of things. Like I'm a big fan of like Inside Man is one of my favorite films.
Good flick.
I know it's not film, it's not high art film, but like Swordfish has that really cool, bus scene with the exploding
of Swordfish. I don't care what anybody says.
I love Swordfish too.
For anybody who's ever worked in front end or even back end coding, computers, it's just as exciting as that.
Just
scene.
like that.
Absolutely.
Just like
it
that.
is just, yes.
Part
you
of the
can
Hackers
get drunk
trilogy,
and figure out
I'm
code.
sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
But no, I enjoyed it. I think I will probably enjoy it better on a second time just because I will know where it's fitting in the narrative of the entire story. Again, I'm watching this kind of almost feeling like, oh, we're kind of 3/4, right? Like we're almost done. No, we are nowhere near. There is much to happen. So yeah, but it was, you have that, the tension, and I mean, I know we'll get to it after we talk about this heist and this part of the heist, but I definitely want to make sure we hit on our two main leads acting in the same movie, because I know that was a big draw promotion of this movie because they were both in Godfather, but they didn't share any screen time, and you can tell because
in marketing they called it Showdown.
Yeah, it's like, let's specifically write this diner scene so we can put these two actors together.
No, the entire marketing campaign, as I recall it, was Pacino, DeNiro. Finally, for the love of God, they're in a movie face to face together. You've wanted this for 20 years. And that's what I recall from the marketing campaign. But Tristan, you first encountered this on Laserdisc, on VHS. Was this something where you snuck it at the video store?
I think this was on TV, which Michael Mann has denounced. He says
he should.
Yeah, like I think he said he's like, okay, I'll make you your own. I'll make a TV version for you. Like apparently, like he offered to make the TV version for the network, and he said he's like, I can trim 17 minutes off, which is a big deal. Like 17 minutes off of
a lot of screen
almost
time.
3-hour film. That's a lot of screen time. They said thanks, but no thanks, and they cut 40 minutes in order to fit it onto TV. And he told him, he said he's like, don't put my name on it. Say a major motion picture brought to you by Michael Smithy or Alan Mann.
And
that's what he said.
I would say that he's absolutely right to have made that demand, because that's, well, and the thing is, just to go a little bit in Mann's career, he did do, I'm trying to remember I think it was The Keep, which was a horror movie about Nazis. And it was one of his early films, and the studio took it and completely recut it without his input. So that's definitely, and the thing is, there are so many directors where they get super touchy about that. Lucas, they took 3 minutes out of American Graffiti without his okay. And after that, he was like, nobody touches my movies ever again. And so it's understandable, but we've gotten Darren's reaction to that gunfight scene. Tristan, as somebody who's seen it before, is that like the moment you're waiting for? You're like, okay, here it comes, and you're building up to it. Is that the main driving factor for revisiting this, or is it just a bonus?
I don't know. I can't really say it's the main factor, but it's the factor that gets me the most pumped. Like it gets you the most like heart pumping, like really cool, really excited. I mean, the whole thing is like, you don't put on a 3-hour movie just for a 7-minute scene. Right. And so with this movie, it's very much the whole thing. Like it's holistic. It's, it's greater than the sum of its parts. It put together is what makes the epic of Heat. But that shootout scene, the audio design is just phenomenal. I mean, like you talked about it being loud. I mean, it is loud, but there's a reason why this stands out from other gun battles, is because this is so strange that Mann was either the first and or only in a major motion picture of recent memory to actually use natural sound for a gun battle of this size, where most of the time you would just use, like sometimes in post, you like especially if you're out in public, you would add in the muzzle flashes, you would add in the sound later on so that you're not scaring the crap out of everybody in downtown Los Angeles, or so that you can get easier permits, or it's less expensive, you can do easier takes. But what Mann did is that he put up microphones all over the shooting area. Like he put it in between cars, he put it behind trees, he put it behind, benches and everything like that. He put microphones everywhere just to get the nat sound, because that's the thing, is that like that's what makes this sound so crisp and visceral, is because you're getting that echo. It's an echo that you can't really duplicate. Like we've come a long way in order to create echo and reverberation. Like I can hit a button on my computer and I'm like, oh, sounds like I'm in a choir hall, like boom, it sounds like I'm in a closet. But there's something about practical reverberation that just cannot be reproduced.
Well, yeah, to that point, those things that you're talking about, they're enclosed, controlled spaces. Whereas you're going to have a lot of like reverberation and counter echo almost, and the thing is you can't recreate, like that's the sort of thing where it's like trying to explain why you like the taste of an apple or something. It's like, well, it's apple-y, and it's like, it's just something you intrinsically know. So even though I believe none of us have been in a gunfight, you still know how sound works. And when you hear a loud sound, you can tell when the echo is authentic. You can tell when it's real sound. I would say that on top of that, with the gun battle, one of the things I love and just admire and respect so much about Mann is his control of the camera. It extends to the point where he can have a running gun battle where it feels in certain shots like you're running around, or you get the feeling of disorientation as the crowd's reacting, but you never lose your place.
It's not shaky cam.
Right. You never get that low budget, like I just ran alongside the guy. This is an artist who says, okay, if I'm going to convey this, but still get that emotion, this is how we have to move the camera. And of course he's working with Dante Spinotti again as the DP, and, Spinotti's, he's a pretty incredible guy, when it comes to that sort of thing.
And one thing that I want to mention that I didn't know, that I think is just, it's something that you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, why don't more people do this? But Michael Mann wanted the destruction to look as real as possible. So they took all the cars that were going to get shot up, to some remote location, literally shot them with guns, just like made them into Swiss cheese. And then they filled up the holes with Bondo and paint, so that when they would have little squibs that would go off, and so you'd actually see them explode, but yet the bullet hole would be real.
Brilliant.
Like that attention to detail and that methodology is just absolutely brilliant. I mean, that's why we're talking about this, like 20 years later. More than 20 years later. Jeez.
Actually, let me put that out to you, Darren, right? Like nowadays, they'd probably, like Tristan is saying, they would add muzzle flashes later. They would try to fake up the sound. They'd go for something more controlled. Maybe they'd even shoot it in the volume, right? But
I mean, I don't think they'd go that far. But
you don't?
I mean, they'd have the glass
Penguin's
breaking
car chase in the Batman.
You'd have the breaking glass, and then you'd have a lot of artificial squibs, that get. And there's probably, I'm almost wondering, because describing how they did it, like you said, Tristan, I'm almost wondering if the natural way that the bullets hit still feels artificial because they are squib generated versus that chaos of bullets flying everywhere. But I don't think so. No,
the shots look pretty. They're yeah. we all agree this gunfight, this is ridiculous artistry, craft, every example of everything technically that we would want, but it's also an emotional centerpiece to the story. So let's spin it back. We build up to this point with all of these different plot lines going on. You know, we have Chris, we have Waingro, who I will straight up confess is one of my most favorite side characters of all time. He fascinates me. We have all of, we have Danny Trejo as the the getaway driver. We even spend time with Dennis Haysbert, and we learn about this guy. We don't know why we're learning about him at first until he comes into Neil's plan through necessity. So going back, Tristan,
I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I want to interrupt you. I'm sorry,
sure,
but I just want to talk about that particular moment. If you're going to make a movie this long, make it worth it. And this is how you make it worth it. Like Dennis Haysbert's character easily could have just shown up at the diner.
Yeah.
When
we have no idea, random new person.
Yeah, Robert De Niro shows up, and we could have started with that scene. And I think if a studio or producer got a hold of this, I'm sure that would have been the first thing to get excised, was just have Dennis Haysbert show up at the scene at the grill cook. Thank you. And do I think it works? Yeah, of course. From a story structure, yeah, it works. It does. Like you could excise that, and it's fine. The story continues, but you have no emotional impact to his death. He's just another dude who gets mowed down. That's it. Like there's no stake in it. But just those two scenes, just 2 scenes prior. That's all it takes. 2 short scenes, and then we're emotionally invested in everybody who's in that car.
Yeah, and just playing off of that, Darren, this is your first time. Did you feel that emotional investment? Did this pay off for you into the gunfight and beyond? Was Mann overindulgent with the beats that Tristan just, for instance, with Dennis Haysbert's character, was that indulgent? Should it have been cut for the sake of time and moving things along? Did we need Hank Azaria even necessarily to set up Charisse being nabbed by the cops? Couldn't they have just picked her up because they would have known Chris was involved? Right. Or is, so coming at it from that sort of brutal story structure outlook of it, of, okay, Michael, this is great. It's a 3-hour movie. We got to get butts in the seats, right? Would you have cut any of this, or do you think that it was all worth it in the build and the denouement after the climax?
No, I think it's definitely worth it. It's the world building, but it's world building in a professional, I know what I'm doing movie making kind of way. Not only like the payoff that Tristan talked about, but it's more than just the 2 scenes we see him, because we've heard, the other actors talking about being in jail and spending time there. And it's just all the pieces connect. They feel like real people that had a life before the events of this movie, and some not after. But so I think all these little pieces, I think having, and I'm just gonna say what people did because I don't remember any of the names, but the long-haired guy who gets like almost killed in the beginning, who basically becomes a serial killer. Like we're hunting him down and seeing him, and he could have easily just popped back in the very end. And it's like, it was you who ratted me out. But we see that progress. I felt a lot of parallels with like Hannibal, because we had like the FBI investigating, and we're seeing both sides of it. Obviously very different film, but there were only 2 parts that brought me out of the world, and it's only just because of the recognizability of the actors. And so when Danny Trejo showed up and they called him Trejo, I'm like, was he just on set that day? And they just like, hey, Danny, come on over and let's just put you in this movie. And when Natalie Portman showed up, and I'm like, did I put in Leon the Professional instead of Heat? But again, nothing against those actors.
It's. I think this is Natalie Portman's second film.
Oh yeah, and I loved
she gets
her
dropped
in it.
into. I know, but like she gets. Imagine being, a young actor or actress coming up, and it's like, oh hey, yeah, you're gonna be this big crime drama with several people considered the greatest actors of their entire generation. No pressure.
No pressure.
And we're going to have some focus on you. And there's going to be a pivotal scene having to do with you. So best of luck. And let's make it work. Right?
I always forget that she's in this. I don't know why, but I have this mental block that Natalie Portman's in it. This was the first time I watched it in a while. And she pops up and I'm just like, oh, right. Natalie Portman. She's missing her barrettes. And then we get to the ending hotel scene, which for some reason my memory must have just completely blocked as to protect itself. And I saw that scene. I was just like, oh, right, this happens. For some reason, I don't know if it's because I'm a father now or what, but this scene sent me reeling. I even texted you, John, after I saw it, where I was just like, oh my God. I just got so emotional.
I hate her stepdad so much. I don't think do we even ever see him?
No.
Yeah. But no, I hate him so much.
Okay. And two things about that. And a shout out to another show on the network, Missing Frames, where they just rewatched. Well, one of them rewatched and one of them watched Heat for the first time. But I definitely agree with the idea that in studio hands, we have a reveal later where we find out Robert De Niro is the stepfather. And it's, that's our big dun dun dun. He was, because we gotta give him a connection. We gotta give him another reason to hate each other, sort of thing.
That would be terrible. That would make no sense. Awful.
I would have burned the screen if that had been the case. But
gets out her Glock and then
what I find so affecting about that scene, aside from the obvious, is that there are those beats where you see that the only truly stable, caring, and stable is not the right word because Al Pacino's, character is not stable, but one of Hannah's characteristics is we see him constantly showing empathy. When the mother shows up to the daughter's death, his reaction is to go grab her and hold her and comfort and try. And he says to his wife that he carries that with him. It keeps him sharp. It keeps him moving. He doesn't want to share it. Nobody else should have. There's a very heroic aspect to it where you might say, oh, it's not necessarily emotionally healthy, but he is a protector. He's trying to catch these guys because he doesn't want Neil McCauley to make some poor son of a bee, make the wife into a widow. He wants to protect. And so I think that those scenes showing Natalie Portman being a teenager who's going through a lot of emotional stuff and her dad is absentee, it makes that whole scene work because Vincent is the only person that she sees that is empathetic and not selfish. Her dad is so selfish we never see him. And her mom is selfish enough that she makes some questionable choices throughout the course of the film for different emotional reasons and everything. But sort of going around, I want to come back to Waingro, who is the serial killer, because they do say, this is the same guy we've been chasing and everything. Do you think, Tristan, I'll throw it to you first. Is Waingro, is his backstory of knowing that he's had this serial killer aspect to him, it always seems logical to me because of his propensity for violence and anger and basically he's the one that makes everything go wrong in the first heist. Does it work for you, or is it something that you consider a little extraneous?
It gives us that moment with the mother, which I really enjoy. Just because it's really great character building, as you talked about for Al Pacino's character. I really like that moment because of the empathy. But I do think it's extraneous. I think it brings about positive things, and I think there's a positive reaction to it. Like there's other scenes and other things that happen in the movie that are built off of this that are nice to have. But in terms of Waingro and what he adds to the plot, I think this is something like if you wanted to make your movie a little bit shorter, this is something that definitely could have gone away, where like we see him maybe all that we see him in the heist at the beginning. Maybe we see him slap somebody around. He's at the bar, and then he's with the businessman. You know, I don't know if we needed that serial killer subplot, because they don't ever find out that it's Waingro. You know, the cops never find out that it's Waingro. The cops never bring him to justice, and Neil doesn't even know that this is happening. So it's another way that intertwines them, but nothing comes about from it. So it almost feels a little bit like small world syndrome, like something that a lot of people are complaining about with Star Wars, where like you have all these crossovers, but they're not affecting each other. That's kind of how I feel about Waingro as a serial killer.
Okay. I mean, I can see that. To your point about positive things, that whole thing is worth it, because I think that scene where he's talking to the prostitute who's about to be his victim, and he's basically staring straight at the camera, and he's saying, "You don't have a truth-telling style." And, you know, like he's grilling, and you see immediately in his eyes where it's going. And I think it reinforces I think that the positive that comes out of it is that it goes to what I consider the greater theme of the film, that all of these things are much more complex than we're used to receiving with our typical crime heist thriller. We spend time at a dinner with Neil and his crew, and that reinforces Neil is the only one who doesn't have anything to walk away from. So in a sense, his relationship with Amy Brenneman's character, it is not, he wants it. He has this natural human longing for connection. And ultimately, that's why he has, like, if he hadn't had her with him, he could have gotten away. He could have gotten Waingro. He could have gotten all of this stuff. And instead it was his desire, you know, his natural human desire for connection. But speaking of connection.
Well, I wanted to ask you something real fast, John.
Sure.
So do you ever, when you're watching this, do you ever wish that Neil gets away? Like, is the character like, because he's kind of sympathetic, but he's also kind of not. Like, he's definitely, I'll keep the question simple. Do you wish he got away?
I had that argument like almost immediately after having seen the film with somebody else, where they felt that the true ending of the film is Neil running away, because he's lost. Anything that happens after that, he's lost, period. And this person felt that anything after that was unnecessary to the story. And I can see that argument. I can respect it. But I think that the resolution is about giving Vincent closure, where he realizes, because in that moment where Neil is standing, where Neil is dying and Vincent takes his hand, that moment shows again, and it reinforces that Vincent can feel empathy even for this person. He can see the humanity in Neil.
I mean, it's very much in another life I could have called you brother, but they don't say it. Like, right. Because I think nowadays they would literally say that in the shot. And it's like, you don't need to. You've spent the entire movie and the previous diner scene of them two together saying, in another life, I could have called you brother.
Now, speaking of that very famous diner scene, Tristan, I don't know if you knew this, but it was unrehearsed because they wanted to have real energy in it.
And they shot it with 2 cameras so that they could have that feeling of back and forth, because, if you don't rehearse it, you don't really know how it's going to go. You don't know how long someone's going to take with their line. So you have to what your lines are, but you have to treat it like a real conversation, because you don't know when the beats are. You don't know what the other person's beats are going to be. You don't know what the other person's energy is going to be like. So you have to feed off of one another like a real conversation. So it's much, I shouldn't say it's much more. It has a lot more in common with improv than it doesn't. And the beauty of shooting it with 2 angles is that you can cut in between that. You can let things breathe. And that way, like, instead of like shooting Bobby D first, and then that way Al Pacino knows what he's going to do, and then you shoot Al Pacino and he's already in the knowing. So it becomes a one-sided, it's like someone's in the know when they shouldn't be. And I think that was just such a great idea. And I think that's what Robert De Niro, I think that's the scene that made Robert De Niro say yes, if I'm remembering correctly. Like once he read that scene in the script, he's like, yes, no, this is a movie that I want to partake in. And I think I've actually eaten in that diner before.
Ah, cool.
Do either of you know, was this movie shot chronologically? Because
I don't know
so.
I'm just curious because, again, that's a great scene, but I'm curious if the actors had experienced the previous events leading up to it, or at least filming them. There's no tells like that gives a feel that it was shot chronologically. I'm just curious if that was a directing style.
They didn't share any screen time together before this, obviously. So I think it's
and they obviously shot
possible.
The finale second to this. They didn't shoot this after the finale for sure.
So right. I think it's safe to say that this was their first time acting together or being in the scene together. I'm sure that they, met beforehand, obviously, for table reads and things like that. But yeah.
Well, and there's the shootout scene. They're technically both there. They don't get face to face, but they're both, I'm sure they were both on set that day,
I would think so for at least some of the shots. But I do know that one of the things that's very, very interesting is that Mann refused to use sound stages for this and shot everything on location.
Oh, that's right.
And I think that is a really interesting thing because, honestly, I think that adds to the realism. It gives a feeling of personality to the city itself, that you're not manufacturing anything. Because I think that sound stages, no matter how good they are, you can still tell. It's like the echo thing. You can still tell intrinsically with a lot of them.
It immediately makes me think of when they're staking out and they're like, they haven't robbed the place yet. And everybody's like up on that ledge looking down. That is this was literally here. So we put the camera here and no sound designer or production designer would ever build that and say, right, what if we put the camera like literally pointing straight down? That definitely feels like this is how the area was built, and we're going to accommodate to it to get our shots.
And, speaking
Darren,
again,
I know that you live near, you live in California, like
near
how
to Hollywood than you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
About an hour.
About an hour. Okay. Yeah. And, Darren, you and I have met in Hollywood and Los Angeles several times. And, I used to live in Hollywood and Los Angeles, real short stint. But I don't know how to describe this. And I'm sure some people are probably going to think that I'm talking out of my ass, but the way that it was shot, the way that Mann shot Los Angeles felt so real to what I know Los Angeles to be. Like, it's not the Walk of Fame, it's not the hills, it's not the sign, it's not the Wax Museum, it's none of the touristy crap that you normally see when you're shooting on location in Los Angeles. Like, you're seeing people stuck in traffic, you're seeing them at the Netflix headquarters, like trying to get a movie deal passed, like you see that kind of stuff. You see the glitzy movie industry side of Los Angeles, which, I've known people who have lived in Los Angeles their entire lives and have never seen anybody famous, like walking about. But with Heat, it just feels so real. It feels like Los Angeles. Like if you've been there, if you spend a lot of time there, it just feels real. Now, so many movies have been shot in Los Angeles for a reason, because everything exists there. Everything movie-wise exists there. And so we've probably seen Los Angeles more than any other city in the movie industry. But for some reason, Heat was the first for me to make it feel real. And Darren, I want to know what you think about that as someone who has way more Los Angeles experience than I do.
Well, I mean, you would have thought it was LA Story that really gives you Los Angeles, but no, it is not that billboard. No, I totally agree. It's the industrial parks and the train tracks and the airport and I think it's like the first time I've ever seen LAX without a focus shot on that restaurant in the middle, like the iconic, like, no, we know we're in LAX because it's right there. Yeah, no, and I think also the fact that, there were kind of equal parts night and day. It wasn't, I think of, wasn't the more recent Italian Job also in LA, like when they're going up into the hills? For some reason I think it is, but maybe I'm thinking of a different city. But I totally know what you mean though, Tristan, where it's giving us the real city, not a pretentious way, but like, yeah, it's like there's a hotel which has this weird entryway that gets kind of blocked when you have too many cars, and there's a fire truck. Like that is a real place versus, well, of course we go to this hotel, which is the most beautiful one with the sweeping vista. And like, no, this is just a hotel near the airport. That's literally what it is because it's practical. Yeah, no, I mean, if I had to wrap up this whole film in what it does is world building, building the characters, building the locations, building the plot. You're watching a master do all these things.
Well, speaking of a master doing all of these things, masterful casting. We've already talked about the cast, and you talk about DeNiro and Pacino, but do either of you know who was originally offered the role of Chris Shaharless before it went to Val Kilmer? Don't cheat and
so
look.
Many names. I've heard of so many names, and I cannot remember.
Keanu Reeves.
Yes, and he decided not to, so that he could do Hamlet on stage,
which is incredible because Val Kilmer in 1995, that's basically the year of Tombstone, Heat, and Batman Forever. That is,
he was filming Batman Forever while he did Heat.
How crazy is that? How crazy is that?
It was Val Kilmer's year.
It was. It truly is like the pinnacle year of Kilmer's career. It's at the height of his power, but he's only a piece of this. And this is what I'm getting at here is I've always, said, I'm not the only one, but people, I know always say, a tremendous performance is one where you look at what the actor does and you say, this could not have been played this way by anybody else. Conversely, I would argue that the mark of a great script and a great director is that no matter how great the performance, you can see that it would have been great no matter who was cast, whether you put a name in or an unknown with a good, with a solid skill set. So Tristan, first question to you. Do you think that this is a script that survives with a different cast, without the names, without DeNiro, Pacino, Kilmer, Sizemore, or do you think that is part of the entire allure of watching this film?
Ooh. I can see it with some people. I can see it not with some. I can't. How do I phrase this? Like some people I can think can be replaced. Some people I think can't be. I may get some heat for this.
Wah, 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 wah.
That's it, Tristan. You're off the podcast.
Yeah.
You know what?
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't see this without Pacino. I feel like he made that role his own. Robert De Niro, I could see somebody else doing that role. I think it's because it's so stoic. It's so, like it's so stark, not stark, but like sparse in dialogue and tone. I mean, like he nails it. I mean, he does a fantastic job. He's like you said, like one of the best actors of his generation, and he's Academy Award winner for a reason. I think he's fantastic. He does so much with so little, but because of the nature of the character, I feel like somebody else could do it. That is not a knock on Robert De Niro. That's not a knock on his performance. I just feel like I said, because of the nature of the character, I feel somebody else can do it. But with Pacino, he made it a Pacino role.
Yes,
he's like, when he says something like, he's like, I told you, baby, you're going to have to share me with the LAPD and the bad guys, like stuff like that. He's like, she's got a great ass, like just like out of nowhere.
I was getting a lot of Scent of the Woman kind of vibe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he had definitely hit his yelling phase by this point because he finally won his Oscar for Scent of a Woman. But what's interesting about that is with this director's definitive edition, and Darren, this is your first time watching it, so these tiny little changes, these tiny little changes. But in that scene that Tristan's just referenced, where he's talking to Hank Azaria's character, and he says, because you got a great ass, there's something about ass, something comes out of me, right? There was actually a line in there originally where he laughs a little bit and he looks at Hank Azaria and says, ferocious, aren't I? And it's sort of...
The cameras would have stopped rolling half a second earlier.
Well, it just shows that it's an act. That when he goes off the line, when he blows up like that, it sort of reveals, I'm just having fun. Tristan, as the person who's seen it before, do you miss that when we see that it's a little bit of artifice, or do you prefer it this way, where he is just a guy that can go 0 to 60 when he needs to?
No, I don't think it needs to be explained. Like it's the midichlorians of heat. Like we don't need it. Like we don't need that numerical value added to it.
Why you got to go there?
It's just because I love you so much.
Why you got to go there? Come on now.
But no, I think I really like that he just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like that scene towards the beginning when he's talking to his informant.
Yes. And
he's just a complete jackass. He is just a jerk through the entire thing. Like you have no idea what this snitch has done. You don't know what his rap sheet is. I think they might have alluded to something. I can't remember exactly, but he's on parole. He's an informant, and they're treating him like garbage because they can. And also, side note, I need to look up that actor's name, but he doesn't get any credit for this role. Like that's not a role that you think about, but like he does such a great job of being uncomfortable. He does such a fantastic job of trying to lie his way out. He's like, no, man, I got him for you. I know. I told him he's going to be there. I called him up. That's why I wasn't there last night, because I was trying to get him for you. He just did such a great performance just in that small little role. But like, he's such a memorable performance. But no, like to get back on point, I love that. This is man filled with such empathy, and like he's the type of guy who's like screams, she's got a great ass in Hank Azaria's face. And then in another scene holds a mother who is mourning her child. You believe that that's the same person. Like, I don't need him to tell me it's just an act, because it doesn't matter either way. Either it's really him or he's just acting out. It doesn't matter, because I never feel like he's out of control.
He fills the container he needs, whether it's
I like the way you put that. Yeah, I like the way you put that, and I think it also, again, it reinforces like somebody who takes on all of that stuff and carries it inside of him is going to have those moments where it spills out. And maybe this is the type of guy that looks for those moments where he can let it out. Like it's almost like a pressure valve where he's like, okay, this will prevent the stroke if I just blow up at Hank Azaria right here. Cool. And that, and he can fill up again later.
Well, in answering your earlier question, John, about like, could this be made with a different cast? It makes, I think, yes, but you have to talk about like you have to shift a complete generation. So it makes me think of people who make those movie posters of like the Avengers if it was made in 92, it's where it's a whole different cast because those were, and you're like, yeah, those are the people that would have been those characters if this was made at that time. So maybe shifting it this direction, I don't know, maybe like a Bryan Cranston for like Neil or something like that can give that emotion. I don't know. I don't have a whole cast picked out, but I do think it is possible, but you have to completely cut from the mid 90s hotness and you got to pick someone from like now.
Yeah, I can see that. But there are two things I definitely want to make sure we hit on before we get to our ratings. And it's two things that all of us love to talk about, editing and music. And the first thing I want to hit is the editing. Because I gotta know, I think that this 2 hours and 50 minutes as the director's definitive edition stands, and I don't think that the runtime is all that different from the theatrical. I really think these are just like tiny little shavings here and there. It's always fascinated me how smoothly and how quickly this moves. I mean, Darren, I know you said, "Oh, I still have half the movie to go after the gunfight." But at the same time, I remember even during the first viewing, when I did see this in the theater, I was literally recovering from having my wisdom teeth extracted. And I still stayed awake through the whole thing with my brother sitting next to me. I was like, if there's any, I couldn't miss this, seeing this with my brother because of the Pacino DeNiro thing. And it kept me awake and interested and all of that. I'm all doped up and I got holes in my face. And I'm still totally into it. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that even though it's almost 3 hours, it doesn't feel that way. At least I don't think so. Tristan, do you feel the 3 hours? Do you feel that this is a 2 hour and 40-minute movie that overextends itself? Or do you feel that this is the right cut for the film?
This drags for me in certain spots, and overall, I feel like I was talking about it with my wife, and most, like I'd say like 80% of the time she watches my podcast movies with me, because we try our hardest to pick good films and good directors. But there's certain times when she's like, no, no, I'm not going to watch that one. You can watch that one on your own. And with this one, I was like, I'm doing Heat, and she's like, oh, cool. I'll watch that one with you. And she's like, when are we going to find the time? I was like, yeah, it's 3 hours. And good Lord, do you feel it? And she's like, yeah. I was like, it's a good film. It's a great film, but you feel the 3 hours. And she and I definitely agree on that one. And for me, I don't think there's anything that particularly feels out of place. I think there's no scenes where I'm like, that doesn't need to be there, except for what I talked about with Wayne Grow. Like I feel like you could drop that whole plot line and be fine. But there's a lot of the scenes linger. And I think that might be Mann, being himself a little bit. He likes to linger. He likes to let things breathe, and that's his style, and that's fine. This movie's a fantastic movie. It's an epic movie. It's great. I love it. But I feel like you could condense a lot, but just by not giving so much breathing room all throughout the film. And to some people, that might be the attraction. To some people, they may think I'm crazy, but to me, I feel like you could get this down to 225, maybe 230, and not really have to excise too many scenes. Really just kind of cut to the chase a little bit more.
Darren, same question to you.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think around like the 1/3 mark, because I was watching it over like the course of a long afternoon, so it was like kind of not in chunks, but there was a part where I was kind of starting to check out a little bit. Again, I'm trying to not compare it to watching Tenet the following day, which you want to talk about no dead air. That movie just never lets up on the gas. But yeah, I'll agree. This could be shaved a little bit. I think a lot of stuff with Val Kilmer's wife, again, I don't know any of the characters, but I feel like we spent a lot of time on their relationship, and I was still trying to figure out, like, what is their deal? Like, are they in love? Did they, like, I still don't have a beat on their story. And yet you get, you know, their ride or die at the end, you know, where but she also betrayed him, but then took it back. And it was, I don't know. I felt like that subplot could have been punched up definitely and tightened up a bit. I felt Pacino's relationship was, you knew it instantly. Okay, this is the dynamic between the two. Like, it was very clear. And maybe because that one was so clear, that Val Kilmer's side, like, it was moving through mud a little bit more to get there. So yeah, I wouldn't say the movie was too long. It didn't, by the time you're sliding into the end, I mean, I will say, like, my favorite scene is probably the end. The way they build the tension in the end fight is amazing. And that's probably my favorite action scene of the film. But yeah, you could have, there's a lot of players. There's a lot of characters. I mean, just looking at the list, there's a lot of people to take in and take out. But it's also it's not that kind of an action movie. Meaning, like, you have action movies that are like, go, go, go. But this movie does take its time, which isn't a negative. It's like drama mixed with action. And it's this interesting cocktail of storytelling that works, but is not the norm. So it takes a bit to kind of get your head wrapped around the pacing. That's what I'd say.
I guess I kind of split the difference or what have you. From a logical standpoint, and coming from, you know, being raised in the deep in the George Lucas school of, you know, every scene, you know, you are bound, you cannot linger, you must move as quickly as possible through everything, cut, jump through. It's all made in the editing bay sort of thing. I enjoy a movie like this because of the fact that even when I'm in a scene where I say to myself, logically, I don't need it, I can still look at it and say, but I enjoy it. It's almost like savoring a meal where I know under different circumstances, I just want to shove the hamburger in my face, but this is a really good one. And it's like, I don't want it to end. And so maybe I stretch it out a little bit, but that's okay. Cause I'm taking my time. And that, like, it's more of an emotional thing than a logical one, you know, from my perspective. But speaking of that end scene, Darren, I agree with you. I think it's brilliant. And it's one of the few moments where the music truly evaporates and he's just using the sound. It's there's the gunfight, and then there's the showdown at the end, and they've got those two moments, but otherwise the music is very, very present, very important to this film. And so I want to ask you, Tristan, what do you think of the score? What do you think of the music selection? You know, we praised it during Last of the Mohicans. Does Mann hit another winner with this one?
I think the music is great because it sets the tone really well. It allows itself to be heard, but not over, you know, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not overbearing, you know, like it's not overbearing. It allows the scene to be seen. It allows you to take it all in, but yet still notice the music, which is really hard to do. Like, you can so many films, you have background music where anybody could have made it. You could have downloaded it online and then just put it underneath as like a bass track. And there's other stuff that's way too bombastic that brings way too much attention to itself. This one, I feel like, really straddles the line. There's really only a few times when I'm just like, oh wow, that guitar riff didn't need to be there. But most of the time, I think this is, nothing can touch Last of the Mohicans. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You know, maybe Tron Legacy, but this is great, but it's not Last of the Mohicans.
Darren, same question to you.
Yeah, again, I'm trying not to think of Tenet, which I just watched, because that's also a very different score.
And every time you say it, I start thinking of the opening track for Tenet.
I know. Okay. No, I thought the music was great. It, again, not a theme kind of a score where it's like, this is the music that plays under the protagonist, and this is the music that plays. No, it's setting the tone and the mood. Honestly, I think, like you called out earlier, John, the lack of music during the big gunfight, or not lack, but diminished amount, really, I think, punctuates that part of the film even more so, because nowadays it'd be like, get the timpanis going and the brass, and it's, we're shooting each other, and it's all big and big and big. But having just the reverberating echoes of the gunshots be your percussion in that scene was definitely the right choice.
Yeah, I had this soundtrack on CD and I listened to it a lot. I think that there are some absolutely wonderful tracks on here. Some of the music that they bring in is wonderful. I recently discovered that you cannot get this soundtrack through Spotify, so I'm going to go digging through and see if I can find my CD again, so that I can listen to it. But I do agree with Tristan. Like, it's not Last of the Mohicans, but then again, what is? And it's, I mean, it's like, it's sort of like, yeah, well, I like this movie, but it doesn't have Superman's score on it. It's like, well, okay, that's.
I mean, it says Star Wars, I guess, or Tenet,
right,
apparently, because Darren keeps talking about it.
Listen, Tenet's a terrific score. Göransson does his best Zimmer impersonation. It's absolutely amazing. But, all of that said,
it was Zimmer. Like when I didn't pay attention. I was just like, another Nolan Zimmer winner. Wait, what?
Well, that's not a name I recognize.
That's faux Zimmer.
Kilmer's just, not Kilmer. Nolan's just slowly going through and replacing his trusted crew piece by piece. I can do it without Pfister. I can do it without Zimmer. Challenge me again. So here we are. Darren, this is your first viewing. Tristan, this is definitely not my first viewing, but because I'm always fascinated to know somebody looking at it with fresh eyes, on a scale of 1 to 5 Metro cards so that you can take that train to the heist, Darren, how many cards do you give Heat?
I'm going to give it a 4. It's good. I wouldn't say it's my favorite heist film, but I love how it overlaps and I love how it made me think of like the Hannibal films, and made me think of like, FBI agents and chasing, and it's not a fun film, meaning there's other heist films which are, Ocean's 11 or Inside Man, where it's like that there's a bit of humor inject. There's not that is not this tone, but that's okay, because for the world building it gives, for the amazing performances by all the actors, for the playing the Danny Trejo card, which it's always an extra half a point for that right there. And so I definitely enjoyed it, and we'll probably rewatch it probably on a nice quiet evening when I have 3 hours free. I'll let you guys know when that happens. But no, I definitely enjoyed it. I don't feel it was overhyped. I don't feel disappointed at all. But yeah, I'll probably rewatch, at least picking some of those scenes where it's the best moments. Actually, and now I need to go listen to Missing Frames, because I'd held off until seeing it myself, and we can see how our other podcasters enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Tristan, where do you land? Well, okay, so Darren had 1 out of 5 Metro cards. He gives it 4. I'm going to ask you 1 out of 5 Jeremy Piven dress shirts. How many do you give?
Is it worn by Jeremy Piven, or is it like his line of shirts?
Worn by Jeremy Piven.
I thought you said, is it still warm? I'm like, ugh.
I don't know, man. I don't want another one. I don't. Dennis Haysbert, fried eggs. That's okay. That's how.
There you go.
Okay, I'm giving it 4.5 Dennis Haysbert fried eggs. This is a fantastic film. This is a great film. This is a great film. Performances, music, cinematography, sound design, directing, all top notch. The editing is, I think, where I knock it off a half star. Just because I think, like I said before, I think it breathes too much. There's a few shots that take me out of it. The one that's coming to my brain, I know that there's more than one, but like the one that's coming to my brain is when DeNiro hits Waingro in the head with the butt of his gun, and we get some like weird GoPro looking footage for like a half a second. It completely takes you out of it, and you realize that you're in a movie. Like it's a weird POV shot, and you're just like, that was so, like, this was such a great scene. So much great buildup, and then you put in a crap shot like that. It almost ruins the moment for you, in my opinion. But there's a few parts here and there like that where I'm just like, you didn't need that shot. You should have cut away from that. That's why I knock off the half star. But I'm talking about the difference between a 4.5 and a 5-star film. Like, like I'm nitpicking here. But this is a fantastic film, so I give it a very, very, very strong 4.5 stars.
I can say that this film has found new resonance with me over time as I've gotten older. I think that there is an aspect to Macaulay and Hannah's characters of men who are running out of time that might not have spoken to me the same way 25 years ago that this came out, something like 95, 2015. Yeah. So like 27 years ago as of this recording. So it didn't speak to me in the same way. Still recognize the greatness and stuff like that. But I would say that because of that emotional resonance, and a couple of other things that just for whatever reason, just landed a little bit differently for me this time, this gets a 5. Because there is an aspect to Waingro that I find so fascinating that I can't let it go. Like, I need him in this movie. And I think it's because of the fact that he is actually the catalyst that truly leads to the fall of Neil. And it's such an interesting thing because Mann doesn't point at him with a big flashing arrow. But there's a reason that we meet him so early. And he's the first member of that crew that we really, spend some time with in dialogue. And it's because he's the thing that Neil did not control for, that he did not, appropriately take into account. And it hits a 5 for me. So maybe I'm being generous. Maybe I'm being too kind, but honestly,
I'm shocked, John, you gave it a 5. Totally shocked. Did not expect that at all.
It's one of my favorite films, and I'm so fascinated by the fact that there's a canceled TV series side to it. Like it's
canceled
crazy.
Animated TV series, because that'd be even more interesting.
Well, yeah, they could have had a RoboCop crossover. So
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we stand, and we stay in the House of Mann for next week, where we are going to wind up watching a very interesting dramatized take on a story that captivated the nation in the 1990s about big tobacco, The Insider.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.